Hi everyone, welcome to the show. So this first clip is President Sarangal Whips Jr., and he's the Palau president. So listen to what he has to say.
Of crypto.
Well, I think for us, one of the things that we've been exploring is the possibility of having our own stablecoin. And we've signed an MOU with Ripple to explore that possibility, and a stablecoin really based on the US dollar, backed by the US dollar, because we are US dollar, that's our currency. And that's something that, for us, it really opens up that space for individuals that's difficult for them to bank. They have everything on a digital wallet and being able to move transactions around. I mean, it just opens up a new set of opportunities for our local citizens and possibly for the new residents to be able to use this digital currency. So we're still in the building blocks of that, still exploring the opportunities, but we're definitely looking at all those spaces. But digital residency was the first of the building blocks. And
would that be a central bank digital currency, the official version of the dollar used specifically by your country?
Eventually, that's the plan. I think we'll go in stages. I don't think we're ready to just start a central bank tomorrow, but step by step. That's what I always say. We got to take baby steps, and we got to work with the U.S. The U.S. is our partner on this. When it comes to we use the U.S. dollar, we need to make sure that their regulators are happy with what we're doing, and we do it together. So we don't we want to make sure that our partners, especially the United States and our large partners that have been with us for a long time, understand that what we're doing is really trying to harness the new technology and use it really to benefit people at the end of the day. That's our goal.
The future.
Alright, so if you saw my first video on Palau, I suggested that the Palau government had to have some type of authorization from the United States to move forward with their dollar that's put on the XRP ledger. So if you're not familiar, Palau announced that they're going to have a digital currency, which is an IOU on the XRP ledger for their dollars. So right here is confirmation. The president of Palau is saying the same thing that I was saying, that they had to work with the U.S., the partners. He said the partner is the United States, and we work closely with them. So for this to happen, right, the U.S. had to sign off on it in some capacity, and I'm thinking that they're working pretty closely for this. So that was really bullish news. So this next person is Eric Lance Guthrie, and Eric Lance Guthrie is a lawyer, and he works for he wrote a book, and he's also BitCare and the Government Blockchain Association. So this next clip is the Government Blockchain Association, and they did a pretty long seminar with just different speakers and everything. He was one of the speakers. So listen to what he has to say.
So stay tuned. I don't want to give it away, but I promise you I'm going to come back to that one. That one and the Reeves test. So, okay. Any more questions? I mean, this is some great questions, guys. I'm really excited about today. Nabil, come on up and ask your question. So Nabil's one of the presenters as well. So here comes a really good question.
Hello, Mr. Attorney. I have one question for you.
Yes.
Who's going to win the case between Ripple and SEC?
Oh, man.
Help us all make a little money.
So the opinions are my own, not of GBA or Coaching Law Group, or even better me, my own company. Oh, I joke. Exactly. This is not investment advice. Thank you. All the disclaimers that you can think of, just throw them all in that pot. The Ripple case. I don't know if you guys know about it. Whenever I'm asked a question, I have to make sure that everyone understands why the question is being asked. So here it is. Ripple was sued because the government felt that they were an unregistered security. Okay? Ripple's defense was, well, Ripple, the company, is different than Ripple, the cryptocurrency. Now, I got to tell you, and this is going back years ago, and Ripple, Ripple is one of the big boys. Ripple was in the top 10 on CoinMarketCap for quite some time. So the lawyers are like, so your argument is to separate Ripple, the company, from Ripple, the crypto. How does that really work? So initially, I got to tell you, I was skeptical about the argument. But if you follow the communication and the recent discussions about it, it seems like the tide is turning in Ripple's favor. Is it going to end up that way? I do not know. But initially, I thought, my opinion only, full disclaimers, not investment advice, I thought it was going to be a slam dunk against them, but apparently not. You know, and what happened when Ripple, when they were sued, the coin plummeted, right? So the question is, once the case is over, will the coin rise again? Excellent question. I don't know, but arguably, objectively, hypothetically, it most certainly could.
So they're going to win.
All right, so he's a crypto lawyer, right? He works for a firm that represents crypto clients. He initially thought that it was a slam dunk against Ripple, but now he's saying the tide is changing. So this is a lawyer's perspective outside of the XRP community, and his view is that the tide is changing in the Ripple case. So this next piece of information, so this lady is from CipherTrace, and if you don't know what CipherTrace is an organization that does a lot of on-chain analytics and finds the bad guys, right? And for governments, they're hired by governments and lawyers and everything to find the bad guys using just the on-chain analytics. So listen to what she has to say.
Fall out there, we have Bitcoin. This is just a basic heat map from a couple days ago. Bitcoin, obviously, still 40% of the market. You've got ETH that's hovering around 18-20% dominance of the market. Tether and USD coin, they have a pretty prominent place. They generally fall within the top 5 of all cryptocurrency. That speaks volumes. What is the most circulated cryptocurrency? It's Tether. It's not Bitcoin. When we talk about 24-hour volume, it's Tether, always, and it's double the volume that Bitcoin is. That's not for speculation, right? Tether's pegged to the dollar. People are using stablecoins already for payment settlements. They're using stablecoins to fuel DeFi. This is how I move in and out of DeFi protocols. I want a crypto that is stable as I'm moving between different protocols, as I'm moving between different aspects of the crypto world. NFTs, if I want to purchase an NFT. Okay, so just to give you an idea of kind of where they fall, here is an overview of tokens. These are all tokens on the screen, not coins, right? So you can definitely see their impact on the market when we talk about tokens. BUSD is Binance US dollar. DAI is also stablecoin. Some other stablecoins, Paxos Standard, Gemini dollar, right? There's a whole host of stablecoins out there. When we talk about volume, just to give you an idea of what I just mentioned, right? 24-hour volume for Tether on the particular day and time that I took this was 55 billion in 24 hours, whereas Bitcoin was 25 billion, right? I've seen Tether volume as high as 90 billion in 24 hours, okay? Just to also kind of break it down a little bit and where they're used and how they're used, Tether is primarily used outside the United States. USD coin is mostly used inside the United States. A lot of that has to do with who's backing it, right? USD coin, Circle, and Coinbase, right center. Tether, Tether.io, Bitfinex is its primary backer. Okay. All right, so these stablecoins have been out there for quite a while. We've definitely seen growth over the past year, fueled by these new, I call them new, but buzzwords like DeFi. It's not new, but it's definitely come into its own in the past year, right? So the OCC said all the way back in 2020 and in January of 2021, hey, banks, you can use stablecoins. Banks, you can custody crypto, second interpretive lever, and hey, you can hold the reserves for stablecoins, okay? All the way back in 2020, banks started to jump on the bandwagon. Most of your top 20 banks are either looking at using a stablecoin that already exists or creating their own stablecoin, right? So the OCC came out and said this, and then we saw back in November of this year, they said, from the executive branch, we're going to take a look at stablecoins because there's really no oversight on stablecoins. So the executive branch, FDIC, OCC, right? They put together this report with recommendations on stablecoins. Okay, and then we saw the Fed last week put out the paper finally on the digital dollar, right? And I don't know if you guys have read through it, but our interpretation is that they really don't have any intention of creating a retail CBDC. And this is why. Stablecoins are already filling that role, right? Stablecoins are already filling that gap. Mentioned SWIFT earlier. SWIFT won't exist in a couple of years. SWIFT just started getting into the crypto bandwagon. It's a little late. Stablecoins are already filling that role of payment settlement. Both Visa and Mastercard, CipherTrace is a Mastercard company now, are accepting USD coin for payment settlements. Okay, so the report said from the executive.
All right, so SWIFT is a thing of the past, right? And she's stating this from somebody that works at CipherTrace that Mastercard bought out, right? And what's happening is right now there are sanctions all over the globe, right? Biden's threatening to sanction Russia over the invasion of Ukraine. Now, Russia doesn't need to use SWIFT anymore, right? Because of stable coins, because of digital currencies, because of this innovation. And it's not specific to one, it's all this stuff, right? The Central Bank of Russia has bought up a large stockpile of gold and has announced the central bank digital currency. So their balance sheet is it's like 30% gold. So their central bank digital currency, in essence, is backed by the gold on their balance sheet. So, we're moving away from SWIFT and, a lot of these regulations, like the President's Working Group, was trying to figure out a way with stable coins in favor of the incumbents, right? And that they were pushing for, to have FDIC insurance. So we'll see how all this turns out. It looks like the President's Working Group was geared more towards the incumbents being the only ones to issue stable coins, but she gives a presentation with Circle, and it seems pretty like they're doing the proper thing with Circle. So I have high hopes that we'll see other stablecoin issuers. Now, this is in 2019. This was also somebody that's working at CipherTrace. So listen to what he had to say in 2019.
In Japan, almost every bank is starting to work with something called XRP, or you may know it as Ripple. And there's many others.
All right, so there was a presentation with Brooks Entelwise from Ripple and the Mastercard people. Mastercard bought out CipherTrace, so CipherTrace is essentially owned by Mastercard. And in that presentation, the Mastercard executive said that they were working with Ripple, like they were partnered with Ripple. So I found that pretty interesting. Now, this is Michael Hiles. So listen to what Michael Hiles has to say.
Can you explain about the Etherscan, or the government pressing for Etherscan to become licensed?
Yeah, so they're apparently trying to expand the definition of the requirements for the application of the licensure to include things that would ordinarily not require a full-blown ATS license. We're working through the 600 pages right now. My chief legal officer is here, and I'm not going to put her on the spot, but Andy Birchfield, we've been working heavily on the dialogue.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're
trying to pull it back, basically, but in doing so, just like the infrastructure bill broadly expanded the definition of a digital asset and what constitutes the requirements for registration of these things, and do miners need to be licensed, based on a brokerage side. This broad brush stroke of expansion of the definition of what requires a Series 24 principal broker-dealer license within the additional Form ATS application. It's pretty broad, and it's very disconcerting that they've compressed the comment period to only 30 days. And, it's 600 pages to start with, so it's going to take at least a couple of hours to just read the whole thing. So,
are there implementing any regulations on the data science? So how Etherscan is basically like a ledger. You can see everything that's
yeah, they're basically saying that any network that pairs up buyers and sellers in a transaction for anything would require an ATS license, as I understand it. Is that true, Counselor? Yeah, I mean, that's basically what they're saying is even if it's game tokens or rewards tokens, has nothing to do with securities or currency or any of that. If you provide a service or a network that matches buy side, sell side, which of course is, any network marketplace that, even OpenSea, right, would be subject to an ATS requirement.
Man, okay. And does that trickle down to individual sellers on OpenSea? So if an artist, let's say I create my project and I put it on OpenSea, have you guys had enough time to read through it and see if there's documentation that regulates like for artists?
I don't know that I'll have time with Commissioner Peirce tomorrow morning. We're meeting with the SEC Commissioner directly, and I don't know that I'll have time to get that specific clarification.
But if you read her dissent.
If you read her dissent.
Okay.
That is something she's calling for. She's
Yep.
wanting more commentary from stakeholders in the industry to ask those questions.
Yes. So get out there today. I mean, literally, you got 30 days to submit a formal commentary or question asking these very questions. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, so it's clear that the government's actually, putting out legislation. It's not good legislation, but there's comment periods where lawyers are arguing, what does this actually mean, and trying to expand the definitions of broker-dealers, trying to make things like OpenSea into exchanges where they'll have to have all types of documentation of their users, which is pretty impossible with things like Uniswap and everything. So, they're moving forward with bad regulations, and then this pushes what I was saying globally, right? Putin's being sanctioned, right? There's all these new technologies, and now the U.S. is deciding to regulate. Right? And there was recently some information that there was going to be some executive order for regulation. That executive order is kind of overblown in the title. What was being said was the president was going to direct all these agencies to make reports. So regulations are coming. It's not as quick as the way that article made it. So
SWIFT, right? If you're Vladimir Putin, what do? What currency do you use if you get kicked off of SWIFT? Use Bitcoin. Use something. It doesn't matter. Kick me off of SWIFT. I don't care. I'll just, I will adopt my entire economy to a Bitcoin standard. So that's the issue with respect to social control. Now, what do we mean by social control? Dr. Liu put up this chart. Social control encompasses the entire flower. And there are two things I want to point out. Number one, money is not universally accessible. There are certain groups, certain people who do not have access to money. We know that because there's a certain percentage of the U.S. population that does not have banking accounts or checking accounts or money. Why is that? And the other thing is, in terms of being central bank issued, fiat currency being central bank.
A measure, a standard.
So President Biden tweeted, "The House took an important step forward today to advance the Americas Compete Act of 2022. This will strengthen supply chains and push manufacturing." Right? So I looked into this America's Compete Act, and I'll add this in the link in the description below, but there is a section that went over cross-border payments and financial messaging. So they're pushing for the Treasury to write a report with the Secretary of State. Will submit a report to the Financial Services and Foreign Affairs of House of Representatives and Committees on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs, and Foreign Relation of the Senate on implications of cross-border payment systems. So this is a report. After this act is passed, they need to give a report to those regulatory agencies. And in the report, they're talking about the SIP system, which is China's cross-border settlement system, cryptocurrency, and foreign central bank digital currencies. And he writes, could erode this system. Right, so they think that analyze how changes to global cross-border payment systems could undermine the U.S. national security interest, including impacts on the efficiency of sanctions. Right, so that's what I was talking about with Russia being cut off from SWIFT. You know, that this technology has never been around where everyone was getting sanctioned and everything. Right, so China and Russia have been stockpiling gold with their central bank digital currencies, right? That's in a sense backed by gold. So they have digital currencies that are certain allocation is backed by gold. Certain allocation of the central bank's balance sheet is gold. So that's backing the currency, right? And the cat's out of the bag. The genie's out of the bottle. Whatever comes from this, it would be more beneficial for the U.S. to absorb crypto than it is for them to fight it, right? So I am bullish on this report. I know a lot of people are worried about this report, but you know, things like RippleNet follow all the sanctions, they follow all the regulations. In my mind, there's got to be clear rules, and then people will work within those rules and want to work in the U.S., want to do things with the United States. If they just set up all these barriers that nobody's willing to do, they'll just move to a different country, right? So this will be a big step, and I have high hopes that it'll do the right thing. Now, I found that pretty interesting. Now listen to this.
And this is 2018 timeframe. It's not a security, but it was as of that date and time. Never cleared Ether when it was originally launched, when the Ethereum blockchain was launched. Did not clear Ether as being a security then. So what's been the issue here? And I'll keep it quite simple because it's actually over a 100-page complaint that the SEC filed in the federal courts. And what's really at issue here is the way Ripple was created, or the XRP, the token, and the way it was held in the corporate treasury, and the way it was used over time was the way a company uses a security. It was used for compensation. It was used for doing deals, for whatever it might be. And the SEC complaint, very well researched, well documented. As I said, it's over 100 pages long. It's a fascinating read if you ever want to have an idea of how the SEC builds a case as to whether something is a security. But this case has now been in the federal courts for over a year. There's been a lot of back and forth. We have communities that are, we have the Bitcoin maximalists, and I imagine there are a few of you here in this room, but there are also Ripple maximalists. But this is still out there, and to be honest with you, I think as this case goes, I think the SEC is sitting on a number of other cases that have the same kind of issue underlying it, and where probably the potential plaintiffs in or defendants in those cases have signed statute of limitations waivers. Because guess what? If you count 2017, when a lot of these ICOs happened, it's 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22. Whoa, that's 5 years. Statute of limitations is about to run on a bunch of these. So the question is, how big is their file of statute of limitation waivers that they have sitting there, all sort of timed off of what's going to happen with this case. So it's an important case. It's going to be a watershed. It may or may not go to the Supreme Court, but it's certainly worth watching.
So in my last video, Paul Atkins, the former SEC commissioner, said that the SEC spreading out too thin is a sign that they're going to lose, right? So she's saying during the 2017 ICO boom, they probably made a lot of companies sign the statute of limitations document. So you waive that and you get a chance not to get sued. So they approach these companies and get them to waive the statute of limitation. In return, it's not 100% certainty that I'm going to get sued. It's, I'll do this in good faith and maybe I won't get sued. I think, there's probably a whole plethora of cases, so that's a sign to me. If I see a bunch of cases, like we just saw with Celsius and Gemini, if I see a bunch of cases being being put out there, that essentially means that, you know, we'll have some type of clarity with the Ripple case, because they're not going to spread themselves out too thin. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please tell me what you think in the comments below. Please remember to like and subscribe. Thanks, everyone.